So, Paul, we'll start with team news then. How is Ben Fox after coming off at the weekend?
We were just awaiting the scan results, Elliot. So can't give you a real update other than he won't be involved tomorrow night, certainly. But yeah, once we get those, then I guess we'll have a better idea of certainly a rough time frame at least.
Were there any fresh injuries picked up on Saturday?
We might. I think it's looking likely that we'll be missing another player that was in the matchday squad. Again, as we've said before, hopefully you appreciate. I'm not going to name that player. I have to wait until tomorrow night to probably work that one out. But other than that, we came through okay. Some tired legs perhaps, understandably, from a big effort, but at the same time another game to look forward to, and the opportunity to try and build on the last couple of games. And you'd like to think, particularly after the win on Saturday, in terms of the circumstances where it was, as opponents and the following that we got, that the lads will be able to get themselves ready for, it's still a big game, and that's been the message, really, right from after Saturdays in the dressing room and enjoying it for a very, very small period. It's on to the next one.
Absolutely. I'm not going to go through the starting 11, but how is Giles Coe? Just because I know he's someone that you mentioned was limping towards the end, although it was a tactical decision to take him off.
Yeah, yeah, he's okay, he's fine. It's not Giles, so you can cross one off at least. But that genuinely, as I said on the day, it was tactical. Just a decision that I felt wanted to make. But he's fine today, and it must have just been as a stiff leg. As I said, he has got sort of stiff joints at times, but nothing that is going to keep him out.
Has there been any update on Jordan Mcguire-Drew?
As we speak, he might have just actually finished, but he was just doing some extra work this afternoon on the training pitch with Greg, our obviously fitness coach. And I think I'm awaiting that news really to how he comes through with that, which might give us a better idea of when he'll be back. Again, that won't be definitive, but certainly end of last week, the bits that he was doing, it was very sort of watered down from what you would need to do to play in a game. So again, tomorrow night will be too soon, that's for sure. But depending on how he came through, that might give us an idea whether or not he can be involved at the weekend. That's obviously what we would hope, but we'll probably have to revisit that one again on Thursday.
No problem. Fair to say that Michi Efti's made a remarkable difference since coming into the side in the last two games. He's shown really what you were missing while he was out injured down that right-hand side. Is he someone that you would like to get tied down to a new contract?
He's certainly, I think, give us a different threat, hasn't he? And obviously, started the season in the team, lost his place through a moment of madness, shall we say, and then had to bide his time a little bit. But I think overall he's had a good season today. Still a long way to go, but he certainly brings some really good attributes in that position. The goals are an added bonus, although we did, when we signed him, we'd seen that he had contributed some goals, and the sort of way that he plays, thinking, and his stature, that he might be able to continue that. So he's definitely made a difference, and clearly a player like that, then you would think that as a club and as manager, that's someone that we'll certainly be looking at.
Have you started talks with him at all?
No, I think I said to you, I spoke to Andrew Friday, and then we've had the game and preparing for Kings Lynn, etc. We've got a clearer week next week that perhaps might be an opportunity to start that dialogue. I don't really want to have any conversations just before a game. They don't, even if they're not, don't have to be that detailed. You just want them to focus fully on the game, and I don't want any kind of distractions at all from what they need to do, because I think the danger is obviously from sat in a manager's chair is the highest Saturday, the kind of all that atmosphere around the game. I want the players to remember that feeling, kind of bottle that and use it as motivation to get more of those days and more victories. We appreciate it's not always going to be in front of that as big a crowd or maybe as big an away following, but still that feeling in the dressing room 100%, and at some stage perhaps something similar again in some of the games. So we really enjoyed that. I think speak for everyone, but it's as I said, you don't get too much time to really sort of enjoy it. Certainly can't wallow in that. We're on to the next game, and that obviously included looking at Kings Lynn and the good victory that they had at the weekend. But we've got to try and build on it, because there's still, there's a long way to go no matter what, but there's still a gap. I'd like to see if we could close that obviously as quickly as possible, and if we can, then that sets up even bigger games sort of down the line.
After Saturday's victory, are you almost pleased a little bit to have a midweek game this week because you've got that momentum that you can hopefully build on?
I think it's always sort of different ways you can look at it. I thought it was stats wise, it was relatively high for us in some, the physical output. But as you say, the flip side to that again is the mentality. We certainly should be going into the game in good spirits. Like I said, as opponents, I think we'll probably be similar. But at the same time, we're at home. We want to take the game to Kings Lynn, and you can't get the win Saturday. There were lots of aspects to it, but for me, it was just a good performance as well, first and foremost, that players should take confidence from. So hopefully that will show tomorrow night. But again, it's football, and I think although it's a different competition, but the FA Cup and the games over the weekend have shown you certainly can't take anything for granted, and you have to earn the result on the day or the night, as it is in this case.
Absolutely. And as you said there, Kings Lynn got a good victory at the weekend for them against Weymouth. What have you made of them this season?
I think they've changed manager. I think just before the middle of December, I think it was. And I think they've maybe changed style a little bit. But sort of certainly the last couple of games have been the sort of 3-4-3 system. I watched them live at Halifax a while back, one of Tommy's first games, and they played quite well. I think there was another manager there on the night, certainly at half time, said they're not bad, are they? We're like both, I think, quite impressed. So yes, fully accept the league position. You would look at and think there should only be one outcome, but again, that's not how it works. Otherwise, there'd be no point in turning up. We might as well just ring the league and say, "Well, we'll give Grimsby 3 points." It might be nice, but it doesn't happen that way. So, yeah, they've got. Looks like they've introduced got a little bit of spirit going in the last couple of games that I've watched. So we need to be on as guard, certainly, but. Whether it's Kings Lynn, whether it's Notts County, whoever it is, I keep saying it, if we're anything like then we certainly can give anyone a really good game. And I'd like to think that Kings Lynn will be looking at us and thinking, we need to be very good, and maybe concerned about some of our threats that I believe we possess it in our team.
Yeah, after the highs of Saturday, do you feel like this is a little bit of a potential banana skin with the, obviously the emotion that was attached to the weekend?
I think there's that sort of that phrase certainly springs to mind a little bit, because again we know kind of some of the feelings that have been around, and then we beat Wealdstone, and I think there's almost just again wrongly, certainly in my mind, but that should have been 3 points. That were always going to be 3 points, and then you go to Notts County, I guess in some ways optimistic, but at the same time very respectful, knowing it's going to be a really tough game, having been 1-0 down, but then getting the victory and playing well. It does set the next 2 games up, I think, with the thought of, I think you kind of maybe mentioned the other day, looking at February as a whole, thinking there's a really good opportunity. Now, I'm not saying that's not correct, but, it's not even for 2 games. The next 2 games, it's just the next game. And you have to earn those 3 points, no matter what opposition it is. You have to. Again, the FA Cup games are the perfect example of it. Whether people ride the luck or whatever at certain points, the bottom line is you've got to score more than the opposition to win the game. And, I'm sure Kings Lynn aren't just going to turn up and roll over for us because we want to win the game. They'll have the same thoughts. They've got a sort of fight going on. But for me, I want us to at least, certainly have the mindset to take advantage of the optimism, the better feeling around the group that the last 2 results have provided. Can we extend a winning run? Can we go on a good run ourselves now? That's what the challenge is. But again, the boring cliche is that only happens 1 game at a time.
Yeah, the encouraging thing for you is, though, that you have generally beaten teams in the bottom half at Blundell Park. In fact, the only teams you've lost to, of course, are teams that are in the top 7 at Blundell Park. So that's been something that you've been pretty good at this season.
Yeah, I guess I've looked at that. I've kind of, again, we aren't getting carried away, but just look, you just start to think, you look at the fixture list, we've got them to play, and look at overall, I think I'm right in saying we've probably got 12 games left with teams that are below us and 6 against teams that are currently above us. So that alone is probably something that you would like to think would be slightly in our favour, without looking at all the other teams and what their runs are. If we can keep that trend going, certainly in the home games, then there'd be a decent points return there. But again, as we saw, just generally our run was really good, and then we had a bad run, and at the minute it's probably sort of almost an even run, if you like, in terms of just win and losses. So nothing's easily predicted, but if we can keep that sort of form going, then yeah, there'd be certainly some points that we think are certainly achievable. But I think we can beat anyone on his day anyway, so that doesn't matter whether it's teams that are below us or teams that higher up than ourselves.
Scott Burgess has struggled for minutes a little bit since he came into the club. From a sort of tactical point of view, where do you see him fitting into this team?
I think he can play as a 10. He can play maybe as one of the deeper ones, but I think Scott's sort of probably more obvious attributes, at least, are to break forward. And I think the way that we've kind of set up more the 2 midfield players, it's a little bit more disciplined, perhaps. I think if we played a 1 and a 2, for example, in midfield and flipped it the other way around, that naturally would suit him. But at the same time, what I would say is he's a good footballer. I think he understands the game. I think in possession, he picks up some really nice areas. So I think he can fit in different positions. I think he can maybe even do a similar job to what I guess Harry's done in terms of playing wider, but isn't a winger as such. So Scott's, he trained very well this morning. He's just got to keep, working hard and be patient to see if that opportunity arises. Back to that, I guess it's always, people that are out of the team. There'll be others that can they get that chance. If we're winning games, that becomes more difficult in general, you would think. But sometimes injuries, sometimes just maybe the team is functioning well, but maybe an individual drops their levels. It can happen. And again, I'm pretty certain that at some point he'll get some more minutes than he's probably currently enjoyed because of the schedule and the nature of football. With things can look like they're going well, and then the spanner gets thrown in the works, or just the way it is. So fingers crossed for Scott when that chance comes, he can show everyone that he's a good player.